So Claire, it's lovely to see you, and thank you so much for agreeing to come and have some coaching supervision with me. Today's all about contracting and about a bit of planning, a bit of understanding how we're going to work together, but also look a little bit about make sure that we're really clear on what we mean by coaching supervision, and also a little bit about finding out what goals you want, what you want to get out of supervision in the process. Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds great.
Well, let's maybe start off with your experience of coaching supervision, whether you've had any one-to-one supervision or any group supervision, what's it been for you?
I haven't had any official supervision, but I have colleagues and friends who are coaches. So there has been times when we've shared, which has been a really helpful process. So yeah, nothing official, but certainly had conversations where they're a bit more exploratory.
And what have you found, like in those with fellow coaches? What have you found that's been good and been useful?
I think that there's a lot to be said about kind of camaraderie and friendship and knowing that other people have had similar experiences to you. Some of the challenges that might come up in coaching sessions and it's a one-to-one, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have an opportunity to actually bounce back with other people, then you get other insights which perhaps you hadn't had before, but also you feel like there is companionship in that as well, which is reassuring.
Yes. Yes. And what do you get from that? What is the reassurance that gives you, know that other people are going through a similar process?
I think confidence. I think that, the thing about coaching is that you don't qualify as a coach and you're done. It's a constant journey. It's a constant learning. You want to improve. You want to give value. You want to do the best that you can. But we're humans and we doubt ourselves sometimes and we question. And it's lovely to receive kind of constructive input from other people.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And what do you like about that? What do you like about getting a bit of input from others?
I think there's quite a few things. Number one, it reassures me that I love what I do, which I know sounds strange because I know I love what I do, but I love it on my own quite a lot of the time. So you've got somebody else and you're kind of there's that reassurance there. But I think it's just being able to speak to other people, share scenarios, have other people's input, understand what other people might say, because we're all different. We all, we might be coaches, but we have different personalities. We bring different things to the table. We work with different people. So having that kind of a shared forum, I call it a forum, but obviously the conversations are mostly one-to-one with friends and colleagues. I really appreciate the confidence isn't quite what I'm looking for. I suppose it's almost like a bit of a pep talk, like somebody who gives you a bit of reassurance, but also points out or makes suggestions or helps you think outside the box, and that's really, really important, especially when we're mostly doing one-to-ones.
Yes. Great, thank you. And I mean, there's a theme that I'll come back to a bit later on about the idea that we all do have slightly different perspectives, and we might all see the same coaching session in a slightly different way. Okay.
Yeah.
So even if you haven't had, if you like, any sort of tutor supervision or supervision with a coaching supervisor, what you're describing is an element of how supervisors work. So I'm wondering from what you know or what I've sent you, what you've read, or whatever, what's your understanding about what coaching supervision is in a more formal structure?
Okay, so from what I understand, from what I've read, it's not so much bringing client issues to the table, but rather your responses to some situational issues that might have come up.
Yeah.
So it's more, the focus is more on me as a coach as opposed to what my clients' issues are and how one might cope with that. And I hope or assume or look forward to kind of a bit of self-awareness as part of that process, because I am aware sometimes of responses that I might have, personal emotions that I might feel, things that are happening during sessions, internal, monologues, whatever it might be. It's almost like having a bit of an outlet for that. I kind of consider it in a way that I know that maybe like a psychologist might also have, another psychologist to speak to help them with anything that might have come up for them in sessions.
Yes.
Am I getting close?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think you are getting closer. And actually, what's really interesting is that it's a range of a bunch of different things. It's not like in some professions, technical supervision is just one thing. It's just making sure you're doing your job properly. Whereas I
Right.
think the evolution of coaching supervision, it comes from a number of sources. It comes from counseling, as you said, and from psychology, but it also comes from social work. And more recently, it comes from coaching, which means that really it's evolved into three distinct elements that the supervisors can do and the coaches can bring. The first element is the one that you're talking about a lot, is working with a client. Not so much what is the client issue and how they are and what should you be doing to help them, but more like, what are your coaching skills? What's your coaching approach? What are you finding? What's working? What's not working with that client, or indeed with a range of clients? So your client work is one bit. The second bit is like the more personal stuff, the sort of the emotional and the psychological support and the nurture. The fact that it is, you've said a couple of times, haven't you? You know, you're on your own out there, and the idea we are in a room or on a Zoom with no one else. So these are issues and these are challenges, and we want to feel that we're well balanced. So managing all of that, and sometimes it doesn't mean necessarily we spend a whole week being distressed, but we are exposed to information from other people. So knowing that we've got somewhere that sometimes the language is called restorative, you know, a way that we can be supported and help us feel better a little bit because of client issues that we're exposed to. And then the third one, this is a little bit more about the client, but maybe about our practice. It's about quality assurance. It's about ethics. So we might find that there's something in our practice that there's an ethical question. You know, for example, coaching more than one person in an organization, or but then there is also a safeguarding type of ethics, is, you know, the client is telling me something, should I be, you know, hearing alarm bells, and should I be doing something about it? So these are three different elements of the sort of things that how we see supervision. They blend a little bit, but effectively it means that as a coach, you're likely to bring something about your general practice, something about a client or a range of clients, something about ethics, or just something more general about what's going on for you as a coach. What's useful about what I've just shared, that explanation?
I haven't thought that much about the final one, actually, the ethical side of it. So my brain started, the ethics side of it. So my brain started ticking over a little bit in terms of being more conscious around some of those potential issues that might be there or not. I appreciate the separation of the first two, the fact that one's kind of skill based and one's more emotionally based.
Yes.
Because well, obviously both those things come up, but as I was saying earlier, the idea of constantly being on a journey as a coach and wanting to improve, and you know, we wouldn't be in coaching if we weren't wanting to do the best we can do, and each time we do the best we can do, we want to push ourselves a little further and a little further. So I like that in terms of the skills, especially as it's easy sometimes to forget some of the skills that you've learned. So just realistically, you know, we've learned a lot, and sometimes we might forget a few things that we have in our toolbox. So I like that, and I'm grateful for the emotional side, because I suppose there's been a few scenarios where I've noticed that my emotions have been quite strong in, and not that I've shared it in a session, but I would have liked to have had an opportunity to download afterwards. So that's, I like the separation of the three.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and I sort of I have this vision that, you know, if we were in an organization, for example, you know, and you had an hour between clients and you had someone in the room next door, that professionally, that person you go and see and talk through what it was like, you know, that's the idea. It helps to nurture and support our practice. Fab. And although I've distinguished those three elements, we don't necessarily see in advance of each session, it definitely fits into sort of group 1, 2, or 3. It can blend, absolutely, but they're the sort of the overall parameters.
Yeah, understood. Yeah.
Okay. So if we think about now, and you know, the idea that you're going to have a few supervision sessions over the next few months, apart from the fact that I offered it, what's the reason for you wanting to say yes and have some supervision now?
My business has grown. So I've been going for a couple of, over 3 years now. And I'm more experienced. And I think with experience comes awareness. I never said that before, but I just, I'm now, I know more, therefore I want to know more. Therefore, I'm asking more questions about myself as well. So it's come at quite a good time in terms of business growth. And also what I was saying before about the fact that I've actually had some opportunities to talk to other coaches and to do some bouncing back of ideas and sharing of scenarios. And it's been just really enlightening. So when I was offered the opportunity to do this in this kind of professional way and with the structure that you're bringing, it's great for me. But and I learn from you by you being my supervisor in this particular and doing this supervision. So yeah, it's come at what feels like the right time. I've got the right amount of experience, but not so much. And I believe that it's going to help my personal growth as a coach, which is exciting for me.
Thank you. And yeah, and it's very interesting, just as an aside, lots of people come to supervision at all sorts of different times. But I think this is it's a really good time because you've got clients coming in, because you've got now, a financial coaching background, but also now a qualification and you're ready to push on. It's a really good opportunity to advance. So given that I've only just really shared in detail that definition, and so you might not have thought any more substantially about, you just want to use this well. Do you have any overarching goal? Do you have any type of, I would like to be at this place or have this type of impact on my coaching from using supervision?
Oh, big question. So I start to wonder about this as goals, for me as a coach for my company, but I want to keep growing. I want to grow in confidence as well as business size. And I haven't gone into businesses yet, companies, corporates, which I would really like to do. And I think that supervision may, I believe, kind of encourage, support that level of growth. Goal-wise, I really, really want to be the best I can be.
Yeah.
And I think that being able to learn from the self-exploration, which will come as part of the supervision, but also the input. Yeah. The thing with it's not. I believe it's not just me talking. There's an opportunity for you to share your thoughts and your input with me, so I can analyze myself to an extent, but also notice things that you bring to the table, which will just create a more rounded coaching experience for my clients and make me feel like I'm growing within myself. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Well, there's loads of things, aren't there? I mean, I think if I picked out a bit, there's impact on your clients and them getting a better experience. There's your continuing cycle of learning, that you've got a really good aspiration of just wanting to be really good as a coach, and that you see this process as developmental, that you've got the opportunity to learn approaches and learn new ways and carry on evolving. So absolutely. I'd encourage you as a takeaway question to keep on thinking about what impact you want supervision specifically to have, and maybe in contrast to the impact that you want training to have, or webinars to have, or the reading you're doing, or the sharing with fellow coaches. Just having that in, it's just a sort of a background bubbling away type of question. It's quite a useful one to have.
If someone were to ask you that question, is it appropriate for me to ask you what you might consider?
What, for me or for you?
Yeah, for you.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's a really good question. I think, and it's good to check in, because as supervisors, we should be having supervision, of course. And I've had, I'm just changing supervisors, but I had the same one for 2.5 years. My goal was to really fine tune my practice, and in particular, some blind spots, you know, and I found quite a few blind spots over the last couple of years about things like probably being a bit too cozy with my clients, probably a little bit too much collusion. Definitely understanding and being really confident on these ethical issues, the ethical issue around when we refer someone to therapy when we think that coaching isn't appropriate because it's a grey area. I think that they have been really significant for me. And partly I've always had it bubbling away that I know, because I'm teaching coaching and teaching supervision, that I want to make sure that I'm learning enough about myself as a coach so that I can then apply it into training. So yeah, I've had a number of things, but I've also, it's been interesting, Claire, it's evolved over time. I've noticed, you know, that it's not just about the topic for each session. It's about seeing how I'm having the supervision influence how I am as a coach.
Yeah, brilliant. It's lovely to hear, because as you say, if you've been having, what you say, 2.5 years so far, I mean, yeah, that's really helpful for me to hear, reflected back, because it helps me kind of think about what my ultimate goals are for the moment. As you say, they're likely to shift.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, if you know, I mean, you do know a bunch of coaches, it's quite interesting to say, you know, do you have supervision? Do you like your supervisor? What do you get out of it? All of that. People engage in all sorts of ways. You know, you have one-to-ones, you'll have group, you'll have peer, you know, there's a load of it going on out there, and we'll all have a slightly different approach.
And a reminder that this is, you know, there's no judgment to it. It's not supervision in a you know, I mean, it's not so much like, are you doing things right? Because it's not, we're not talking right or wrong here. We're you know, experienced coaches. It's more about, yeah, how you can develop, finding, as you said, some of those kind of blind spots. Yes. A few of the ones that you said resonated with me straight away. So I think this will be a very useful process.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, I'll try not to hijack it too much and have you supervise me. But there can be a bit of that going on. Fab. We will, in a minute, we will talk a little bit about the process. And you're so right. It's not, although sometimes you see in the literature the word managerial, you know, I'm not your line manager. There is a form of supervision in the workplace, which is absolutely that. And it wants to be that, but that's not how it is. That's not how it needs to be. So, you know, if we think about you coming to supervision sessions and you having time for supervision, for reflecting on each session, I'd like you to think a little bit about contracting with yourself. So thinking about how you will get the most out of this supervision. So how do you think, like, the practices that you already have, what practices do you already have that are good, that means that you're going to get the most out of this supervision?
I write notes as we go. I know it's not everybody's thing, and I've actually had conversations about how people like to do this, you know, handwriting, thinking about it at the end, maybe recording, but I find that it's very useful for me to write notes as we go, probably on my screen, assuming we're doing these via Zoom. Just because it really helps with having an opportunity to look back on it later, but also even at the time, just kind of processing a little bit deeper what the question might be and how I'm responding to it. And I do that with my coaching clients anyway. I find it really useful. And I do write up notes afterwards. Again, I know it's not everybody's way, but it's kind of a bit like how I used to study when I was younger. It just helps me, it helps the ideas settle in my mind. It helps me think around the subject a little bit more. And also things might come up after the session, not necessarily during the session, which just by having that extra bit of time to reflect afterwards. So yeah, I'm a note writer during and after, not obsessively so, but just enough just to help some of the ideas settle. So that's something that I do already. I must say the other thing, and I don't know if this is available, but in training, in coaching training, I felt that some of those forms, reflection forms that we filled out, especially because we could choose to fill out something slightly different each time. I actually found those immensely helpful. Not only because at the time, again, it helps you kind of dissect things a little bit more, but also if we're going to have these sessions like a month apart, it's really helpful to refer back to something which has kind of been a bit more specific in its questioning, or specific in the way in which you remember things. So, but I don't know if that's an option as part of this process together. And if it's not, I might create my own, because I find it quite helpful. And I would do it straight after sessions, because I forget things, and I really like it. Just really helps me remember, and then have something to refer back to.
Fab. Do you know, really interesting. It's not an option, but I think it can be an option. I think I don't, for example, I don't send supervisees a form to say, you know, you need to fill this in after every session. But actually, I think it's a really good idea. That especially if people want them. So how about this? I'll design and plan the one that I would use myself. You do your own, and then I'll send you mine, and then you can use whichever version, or blend the two. I think,
Yeah,
because it's just for your own reflection. It's not for feedback, or not for analysis of the session. It's your own learning. Fab. Okay.
yeah,
So,
really, that would be really useful.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
let's do that. It's a great idea.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, all right, so we've got note taking, and you've got reflective practice. And has, so far, does that feel like enough, like, for, you know, how you do your own reflection on your coaching and your practice?
It officially, it feels fine, but I know what I'm like, and I'm a talker, so it's very likely that I will share with close colleagues some of my experiences, if I'm honest, because things will come up, and again, there'll be more to discuss, and more that I've realised, and I really, I'm going to be continuing having the conversations with my colleagues, and it's my sister who's also a coach, and that would be very natural for me to continue this process.
Okay, great, fab. So you've got opportunities to chat with people. How fab having a sister who's a coach as well.
Yeah, she's a different kind of coach to me, which is also really helpful. So we really bring different things to the conversation.
Thank you for that. Great. So, all right, so you've got a process. Any feelings you think you need to be aware of that might either enhance or perhaps get in the way of this process for you?
Oh, feelings about what?
But your own feelings about yourself, because although this is professional, it's quite intimate as well, isn't it? It's quite a personal thing that we're doing, analyzing. So is there anything, like, I mean, for me, as an example, I would have said, you know, I have to be aware of my sensitivity to feedback. I think I'm pretty robust, but I also catch myself feeling a bit too sensitive. I don't want to be sensitive to feedback. I want to be absolutely open to it. So anything like that, any feelings that you need to be aware of?
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting question. I think that it's funny. I would think that I'm not too sensitive to feedback, but then actually the first thing that came into my head is judgment of others.
Yeah.
So I do, you know, I'm conscious of what other people think of me, of my capability, of, you know, even things like, oh, bringing something ethical to the table. What happens if I've done something which is, you know, not considered ethical? I don't think I have, by the way, but it's just, you know, those kind of questions of self-doubt can come into play, because there's a vulnerability in this, isn't there? And it's wonderful to be vulnerable, and we have a hope that our clients will trust us to be, and they will be vulnerable, and likewise I'm doing that with you. But yes, judgment of others comes up for me as probably my biggest insecurity or emotional stuckness. Something that can stop me reaching my potential, my next level, or my next step. Yeah, and I notice even in myself that emotionally that brings something up for me. And so I'll be quite interested to see how that plays out, because it's something that I feel is a constant area of self-improvement, something that I want to work on. And sometimes I manage it well, and sometimes I don't. And I think that may come up for me. I am a naturally emotive person anyway. I'm quite empathetic, and I feel quite deeply, which, you know, but that's not a concern of mine. I accept me for who I am. That's okay, but it may come up because I can be emotional, or I do think quite deeply around the subject.
Thank you. All right. And is that, I mean, it's quite a big question, so we don't have to bottom it out today, but if there are any other ones, and, you know, you want to mention them at other times, That's great. And the question I had about judgment, is it actual judgment, or is it perceived judgment? You know, and the example that I give is I catch someone giving me a look and I decide that they've judged me. They may well have done that, but they absolutely may well not have done.
Yeah, well, it's perceived, isn't it? I mean, I think it is. It just reaches into some of those insecurities that we have about ourselves at the end of the day. I have this little reminder. I don't know if it comes up on the screen. Does it say it? Can you see that? It might be in reverse. It says thoughts aren't real. And it's that kind of reminder that for me anyway, in particular, it's just it's not factual. Necessarily, and it is like perceived, but there's also the acceptance that I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay too. And being okay with that takes some getting used to. And I think naturally, as we progress, as we grow, as our business develops, all those these things can be amplified a bit. So each time we kind of reach slightly outside of our comfort zone, we might be faced with another hurdle that we therefore have to deal with and grow again. So in answer to your question, probably perceived. There may well be some reality out there too, and I need to learn to be okay with that.
Well, thank you for that. Well, I will do my very best not to have my poker face on and just smile all the time. Just keep grinning away. Thank you so much for that. So I've asked you a bit to contract with yourself, which I know might be an unusual thing to do, but I think it can be quite useful to really think about, how to get the most out of this. If you think about it in terms of professional practice, most coaches have supervision every month or every couple of months, so it's only 6 or 12 hours in a whole year. That's not loads of time, so we want to sort of supercharge each session and really get value out of it. And what about contracting with me? What about giving me a bit of a steer about how you want me to be or how not to be? I mean, we've worked together quite a lot. We've talked quite a lot. You've just given me a really good steer about judgment. I'm clear on that. But is there anything any particular requests you have? Please do be like this, but please don't be like that. I'm definitely open to it.
Yeah, don't hold back.
Okay.
Don't take that judgment thing of that. I'm hypersensitive about it. I want to learn, and I know that there's going to be opportunities for that.
Yeah.
I'm not frightened of being challenged. And I naturally do that too when I contract with clients, because pick me up on things. Yeah, if you hear something that I say that I might not have heard, sometimes we talk and we don't actually entirely hear it, but you'll hear it. Pick me up on it. I'm keen to have I'm keen to take this opportunity as for you to be able to pull me up on the odd thing that comes up. I'm not frightened of that. In fact, I actually kind of relish it, to be honest, because that means, to me, that means that we're connecting.
Yes.
And that's kind of where the magic happens, and that's where in sessions, in client sessions, and that's where I imagine it will be most useful.
Yes.
For us. So yeah, don't hold back. I can take it.
Okay. So thank you. So there's permission to shine a light on the things that you can't quite see, or to try and raise again. Do you want me to make any commentary on anything you're doing well? Anything? Should we look at the positives at all? Not know more about that.
Isn't that interesting that's not the way that my mind is going already? Yes, please. Yes, please. I did start off by saying this helps some confidence, right? So having and reassurance. I said that quite a lot at the beginning, and I think now this focus on I've focused away from that. Yeah, it's really, really lovely to be told what you. If you hear me something which sounds like I'm doing something well, and I know you and I, of course we coach differently, we're different personalities. I would really appreciate that, and I think that everybody does. I think we all need a little bit of a pat on the back and you're doing okay. And it's all right. And I liked in the reflection forms in the past, it's like, what are you doing well and what could you do better?
Yes.
And I really like that, the way in which that's defined in that way. So yes, please.
Okay. Hopefully I won't have to write that down. I should hopefully probably remember both of those things. Fab, thank you. Thank you so much for that. So perhaps, we're talking about this and hopefully you get a flavor about how it's going to be, but just a bit of an explainer of what it feels like, but also a little bit about my process. It's not massively different from a coaching session when you'll choose and you'll bring a topic and we'll work through it. And the topic is likely to be in any one of those three areas that we talked about. Coaching supervision is not managerial. It's not me saying, oh, you shouldn't have done that, or you should have done it like this. I wasn't in the room. Even if we do a bit of listen to a recording, it's not for me to say you should have asked that at that moment. It's really not. So what my style tends to be, get everything out on the table and then hear your views before I share a view, check in with you before I offer something. Back in the day, I think when I started this, I used to just try and hold back and just share one view at the end. But I found that actually the amount of things that pop up in an hour, there's probably a bit more to and fro, probably a little bit of commentary on all of these little bits that come along through the hour. So often there's little bits of input and interjection. I tend not to try and teach in these hours. I tend not to be sharing a model or sharing an experience. There might be something that I might want to say, well, do you know what, I'll send you an article on that. I'm likely to have written one something. So I can often add that, but we don't want to turn it into a training session. I think that's really important. And you've said, and I've said, that we are different, and it's really important. I'm not trying to turn you into my style of coach. I mean, hopefully, we've done enough tutorial work to see that, I want you to embrace your style. It's really important. There might be some grey areas and some areas that I feel really strongly about. I think you know a few of them already that I might be a little bit more forceful about. I really think that that's something to work on. But your style is so rich and so heartwarming and so beautiful that actually for you to try and be a Charlie style coach isn't going to help anyone at all. So I definitely want to offer some information and some guidance and some stuff, but not to impose it, really not to impose it. How does that sound as an approach?
Yeah, that sounds really nice. I particularly like what you said about deciding to kind of interject throughout rather than waiting to the end, because that makes it feel more like a conversation. It's a bit more natural, rather than the spotlight just on me. And that would really sit well with me. I'd look forward to it. It's like having a very useful conversation.
Yeah, exactly. We'll bring our cups of tea, we'll have a good chat, and and there'll be a bit of to and fro. And to be really clear, when I ask you questions, there's a lot of, often one of the structures we use is called the seven-eyed model, which sounds a bit Greek mythish. And there's often questions about what you did and what you noticed and why you did that and why you didn't do that. There is absolutely no judgment about that. There's an understanding that we were exploring. So please hear the questions with the intention that it's trying to find out and trying to have an understanding, because as we'll see, there's always more than one way to see things.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Fab. So we'll after today, before each session, I'll send you a little note, just a little nudge to think of a topic for each session, and a few stimulus questions to give you just get yourself back into the room. And then we'll have sessions either every month or every couple of months, whatever works with diaries. And as you asked me before, didn't you, should it be new topics or evolution of the same topic? I think it will be clear session by session what's right for you.
Great. There's no particular rule on that either way.
Some people really like to keep working on one aspect of their practice. Other people, I've found, I want to bring something different every time. And we can choose at the beginning of every session whether you want to debrief learnings from the last session or whether you want to bounce straight into the new topic. That's really up to you. Same as with coaching.
Great. No, that's really useful. I think naturally something will come to mind before the session anyway. But even just thinking about it now, I've had coaching sessions in the past where I'm like, although something came up and it was might have actually been months ago, but I might still want to, you know, talk about it a little bit. So I like the flexibility. That's great.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and it's not like, for example, social workers where you have to review last week. You know, if there was something that happened last month, last year, it doesn't matter. It's fine. It's all about your practice.
Brilliant, really useful. Thank you.
So as we come to the end, let me just check in. What have you learned about supervision, or about yourself, or about the process, just from talking through this last half hour?
I know that the supervision will be very natural when it happens, but it actually really helped me just to think about the coaching skills, the emotional and then the ethical. That's actually been quite useful in terms of thinking how I can make this most useful and most beneficial for me. Structure works well in my brain, so that really resonated. So that's very helpful. And I'm also interested in how my emotions might play out during this process, because this is, you know, I've not really had this before. Yes, I said I've spoken to friends and family and whatever, colleagues, but this feels like I feel like it's an opportunity for you to see me, and that opportunity plays back for me because somebody's actually seeing me. And of course, I've gone through training with you before, which, without sounding cheesy, like it feels like it's the next level, you know. So yes, very interested to see how that emotional journey plays out for me as well. Plus, you know, maybe I want to do this myself one day. So it's going to be informative as well. So yeah, it's been a very useful session.
And that's great to hear. I mean, I'm a huge fan of coaches becoming supervisors, and certainly coach, and not to wait till you're you know, you're a crusty old 20-year coach like me, but actually in your first 5 or 7 years, I think it's a great thing to do. I think it's really good. I think it's that there's enough rich new stuff to build on your coaching practice. I'm loving that aspiration already.
I'll put that down as one of my goals.
Why not? Why not? So what are you looking forward to about this?
I look forward to working with you, Charlie. I find that our rapport is really enjoyable, and I believe that I'm going to enjoy these sessions. That's something to look forward to. It's nice to do something for me. I think that we all could do with some encouragement to do more for ourselves. This feels like something that's going to benefit me, that I'm going to enjoy, that's going to help me grow, that's going to help me learn, and that and that there'll be a bit of kind of fun in that as well. So yeah, that feels quite special. There's the reason I was a little bit hesitant there is that there's that little bit of vulnerability, that little voice that comes up being like, oh, is this for you, you know? But I think this is a really, really good thing for me. And as I said at the beginning, it's come to a good moment in my coaching career.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for noticing that, because you're right that so many people in any type of helping profession feel like we can't resource ourselves. You know, we can't give ourselves time. We're almost like it. We, you know, often people say, oh, I feel a bit guilty that I've actually done it for me. We can let ourselves off the hook by pretending we're doing, or saying we're doing it for our clients as well, which we are, of course, because you'll get better and your clients will benefit. But we're, as professionals, we're absolutely entitled to do this stuff, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely we are, and then it's good to be reminded of that.
Well, thank you, and I'm so looking forward to this. This is, I mean, you know, I've always really enjoyed working with you, and I think you're right. We have a really nice time when we're chatting as well, and the opportunity to have a good few sessions together. It'd be greatly fab. So
thank you
so much for doing this, Claire.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Good stuff. All right then.